All right, Glenn, I think I set the stage well enough, but first, introduce to the people who you are.
I'm a huge Dave Matthews fan. No, I'm not.
I love
he's
you.
cool. He's cool. No, it's all right. Hi,
Wait,
I'm
are
Glenn.
you or are you not?
I am.
Okay.
He's okay, but that's a lot. That's a lot. No, I'm not trying to be passive.
If you're a fan or
I
not.
am not a fan.
You're
I like his
not a
music.
fan.
I don't hate his music. Let's do this over again. Hi, Dave Matthews is great. I'm a Hootie and the Blowfish kind of guy.
Woo! Hold my hand.
All right. Hi.
Bring it down to the real
I'm
stuff.
so sorry. Let's do this over again. This is my first and only appearance. I'm Glenn Oyoung. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at Covered California, and I owe you several drinks, Aaron. It's nice to meet you. I do have to say, I was talking to Chris from Stella, I'm going to try really hard not to curse, but given this audience, who the fuck cares, apparently? The way you guys opened is strong. I should have gone into media 24/7.
We went to asshole to F-bomb real fast.
Yeah, I was I definitely, you are my people.
Yeah,
yes.
that was the highest acceleration that
it
we've
really
seen
was.
at a
it
media
really
post conference
It
today.
really was. It really was.
Okay, now let's actually try to make this educational for the Feeks.
Okay.
So, I kind of introduced where Covered California was when you came on, but in your own words, set the stage. Where were they at in this journey of trying to justify their media spend?
Yeah. So sorry, do I have to click
It's
to?
the big green button in the middle.
Thank you, Aaron. Yes.
Really
there we
trips
go.
everybody up
All
the
right,
first
sweet.
time.
We'll just have a pretty picture behind us. So I'm only about a year in, and so this question was posed before I got there. But to your point, when I heard that it was posed, I did have the sweaty palms and all the things. So a fair question from our board, particularly in an environment where the state was suffering from a budget perspective and still is. Was what do we get for this spend? How do we know it's working, right? And my predecessor had already engaged Stella. Chris, give it up for Stella Rising, please. You can do better than that. And I came in and looked at it and said, it shouldn't just land for our 30-something million in paid budget. Is that the right number? Are we wasting money? It's what's the right number to meet our mission in California. And for those of you who are not from California, most states have a state-based exchange or market. Our mission is to try to make sure that every Californian has coverage, right? Whether it's through Covered California or Medi-Cal or hopefully through their employee-sponsored plan, our mission isn't necessarily come sign up with us. It's come talk to us and we can be your waypoint to coverage, right? And I would say it's expanding into use that coverage as well. So, that was my position. That's my team's position, is not just is this number right and are we wasting or not wasting. It's what's the right number to achieve the mission.
What was the internal conversations that you had, both with your board or your cross-functional peers, to move towards this more data-backed approach?
Well, I think that our board is extremely supportive of using data to make decisions, like most boards are. And so I would say in my management chain and equivalent of our CEO, Jessica Altman, she's very data-driven. And so we had a lot of support. This didn't feel like an interrogation as much as a true exploration. And being new and coming from healthcare, I made it very clear that 30 million, while I appreciate every dollar and justify every dollar, in my experience, we could probably spend $100 million. And I very quickly said that and said that I could justify a $100 million spend.
And naturally, they just wrote you a check, and it was
They
all
asked me to
along,
leave
right?
the building, but I was like, just give me 1 month with Stella, and I'll show you. Yeah.
So you've talked about Stella a couple times.
Sure.
You did decide to work with them to build this MMM model.
Yes.
I think a lot of companies go through the build or partner conversation in their head. So why outsource this?
I don't think I need these notes because this is so conversational. This is so great. Why? Because frankly, we don't have the internal capacity or the capability, right? I think that's number one. And number two, even if we did, by the very nature of the question that we were asked, you really do want a third party to come in as a SME and say, we're not trying to sell anything other than an answer to this question. And I think any other party at the table, including myself, my team, our creative agencies, everyone would have some natural bias towards, sort of perhaps advancing an agenda, whereas having a partner like Stella really engages us in a dialogue about not just is this the right number or is 2x the right number, Because I think what's more important is, do we have the right strategy? Are we, we in California, our member base is very diverse. So truly every dollar needs to count. We're 40% of our members, over 40% are Hispanic, 15% are Asian AAPI, 5% are Black, African American. We've got LGBTQ folks that we're trying to serve. All these audiences deserve our care and attention. And a lot of times that turns out being like a creative thing. But ultimately, after you make all this creative, which we are doing, a new slate of creative that's really culture first, how do you deploy it? And by the way, how do you even know what you want to make unless you have a clear picture of how you intend to reach these folks? So that's where they came in, and we worked together very closely.
And not only do you have a diverse audience and a huge audience that you're trying to reach, very concentrated to California, I mean, you guys are government backed, right? Like, you have a lot of scrutiny over your media spend. So was there conversations of like, oh, I have even more pressure to justify my spend?
Absolutely. And again, I would say positive pressure. Yeah. So delete the part where I cursed and record this part and put it on YouTube. We welcome the scrutiny, we welcome the questions, and really, I think it's all coming from a good place. So it's not just our stakeholders in government, but it's also our community-based advocates who are each community I just listed and mentioned would say you're not doing enough. Yeah. And I think it would be fair, again, to say we wish we could do more. That's why every dollar counts. And I think my commitment and our team's commitment all the way up to our executive director is we want to do as much as we can do to truly connect with people. And it's not just advertising, it's earned media, it's external affairs, it's all those things. But we in marketing definitely have a very big lever, which is our advertising budget, frankly speaking, our paid budget.
So you had the problem in place, you had the strategy of how you wanted to build this MMM. How long did it take? Did you have checkpoints with the board? Walk me through that.
Chris, you might want to leave the room because I think you'll charge me more. I try not to be the new marketing guy leader, but I ended up doing that, right? I mean, the scope changed several times, and it went from how efficient is the spend to my big ask of what is the right number, right, informed by some experience that I've had, to then what is the right strategy to build a brand, which an MMM is not inherently designed to say this is how you build a brand, but I had big questions, and we kept our management along for the ride every single time. And I mentioned Jessica, my boss is Doug McKeever. This is the top of our management. And they spent an inordinate amount of time with my team and I and with Stella, really working as one team with multiple checkpoints along the way to circling back with the board. And I think it took us something like almost 7 months to actually get to the point where we're presenting to our finance committee and presenting to our board. We could have gone faster, but I kept changing I'm waiting for the work orders. I kept changing the assignment. I did. I'll own that. That's just what I do.
Oh, you're such a good client.
Yeah. I'm not going to pay them, but he can send them. Because it was a deeper question and continues to be the mission. And you talked about trust. It's very hard to build trust in an environment if you log on and read the news, particularly if you put yourself in the shoes of a vulnerable person in any of these communities. It is very hard. And this is not a political thing, RD, independent. I don't really care. That's not my job to care. We're here to serve all Californians. We've done 21 focus groups across the state. And in many of those focus groups, people who are naturalized citizens said, I was afraid to come here tonight. I was afraid to come here tonight. Behind the glass, we're crying, right? So why am I bringing this up in a MMM discussion? Because this is not just about the math. This is not just about which channel should we be in, what TPR am I trying to hit, programmatic or this or that, although those are things that I Googled last night and I know how to say. This is about real people, and everyone in Cover California, whether it's me or my peers, management, the working team, we are committed to helping people. That's why we chose this job. We don't care about the politics. That doesn't matter to us. And it is all hands on deck. I've got people working 18 hours. That's really weird, maybe, for you to hear that public servants, state employees who are, the accusation would be, we're just here for the pension. My team is working harder than ever, and I'll bring it back to, it's my job to make sure that's not just time and chair, that we're being as efficient and as effective as possible in service of our mission. And the work that we've done here is really helping us, we believe, be more strategic, make every dollar count, and make a real difference, and truly, we hope, save some lives.
Damn.
Not trying to take a victory lap. We hope. I'm not claiming we did. We need an attribution model to show us we did. But that's the mission.
So you have this mission, you're truly trying to go out there, and you understand your media spend is more, the more eyeballs you can get on people who know you're there and can help them. What's that right amount, right? So when did that number surprise you? Was it by channel? Was it holistic? Was it by audience? Was there sometimes that it said, yeah, you could probably spend less in this area and try to reach the same amount of people? What did that look like?
Yeah, you know, it feels very flippant. By the way, I wasn't this courageous, like 100 million, do it, you know. I had a lot of all the feelings, right? You know, at the end of the day, I mean, you could see some of our stats here that we feel that we have the math that shows that we're highly effective, you know, in what we do, that we are efficient. So I don't want to skip that part. You know, with the help of Stella and my team, we answered the first question. We had to. You know, we're not wasting money, right? And then to show that not only are we not wasting money, but these are curves. I know you guys know how to read it, but basically in almost every channel, we could spend more and still be efficient. I think that was not an eye-opener for me, necessarily, although I was relieved to see that we had the math and the model to prove it. But I think that was an eye-opener for everyone else, that when I say, it's not 100, but like, I think we landed on something like 60 million, 61 million. I'm a marketer, so I gotta go 62 million. Do I have a sold? That we could do that, and we could do that efficiently, and it would be, we feel like, the right number to reach all these audiences. And I said this really quickly, to build a brand. Going back to trust, you know, I think that we have historically been in this idea of open enrollment. How many of you serve healthcare partners? You all do somehow, some way in the industry, right? So open enrollment, special enrollment, OESE, grow. And Cover California, we are very good. You can record this. We are the best. But we have a lot to learn. We, you know, 2 million enrollment last year. That we hit an all-time high for California. And really led the nation, and we're fortunate to have a lot of support to do that. This year is not about that. This year is about, with the things happening and the policies changing, we may lose a huge number of our members. How do we build trust? How do we focus on retention, which we really haven't had to do before, just by the nature of our business? You know, it's a transitory experience for most people. We want to make sure that our brand actually resonates, and whether you need us or not, that you would know us, that you know what we stand for, you know we're here to help all Californians. And if you don't need us, that you would recommend that people call us. Yeah. That's the mission. That's why that number becomes bigger than what it is today.
Yeah. So you have the number that you could be spending to be more efficient. We've talked a little bit about how diverse the California population is as it stands. Did the model show you or uncover a new audience that you're like, oh wow, I need to be hitting these people better, and in what ways?
Absolutely. I think there wasn't some, we need to care about audience X, but I think the rigor of saying, gosh, you know, it's going to cost 2x to effectively reach the Latino and Hispanic community. That was an eye-opener, right? Maybe not for you, but for our team. That was something that I think they suspected, but we didn't really have a means to actually show that and quantify that. So when we're talking to stakeholders about what we need, we can come off like, oh, here comes the marketing team asking for more money. By the way, yes, I will always do that. But you know, you got to talk to our CFO. We've got to talk to our peers, and we're living in scarcity. So I think that was one of the things that really stood out as, okay, recognize that if that's our mission, as an example, and that audience is a big audience that we need to connect with here in California, but there are others that we could start to see, this is why the budget needs to kind of be what it is. There's another side of it where the model said, hey, maybe you're, air quotes, overspending on Black AA. Maybe you're overspending on LGBTQ. But again, with this close partnership, we are driven by our mission. And at least as a decision maker, I say, yes, I'm going to do that, because I don't think of it as overspending. I think of it as historically, marginalized community, and I intend to spend 30% more than the model might predict because I need to do some brand building, right? This is where the assignment changed, right? We need to build our brand, and we're gonna measure that in part through the MMM, but in part through brand health tracking, through research, and a lot of incremental ways that we didn't do before.
Yeah. So what did the media strategy look like as you wanted to go more into brand building? How did you make those adjustments?
A lot of Dave Matthews, I'm not gonna lie.
Naturally.
I do like Dave Matthews. I'm gonna show you my playlist. I just like everything. You can see my playlist and
You're
mock
just
me.
trying to get invited back.
No, I know this is my last one, so it's been nice. It's been super nice. I think that historically we've made these trade-offs based on our budget. We haven't done a lot of out-of-home, for example, because of the price point. But I think through this model, we've looked at things like out-of-home, we looked at things like broadcast, where they do tend to cost more, and said, but we need to intentionally carve out space to do that, to hit our reach and frequency targets, to again build this brand. We smoothed out our spend in open enrollment versus the SE time period. That was really big, and this was helpful to look at share of voice, which I'm familiar with as an industry, but then again, looking at when we bring in members versus how we spend, it was very unbalanced. We're spending almost like 80% of our paid budget during the open enrollment cycle because, again, recall that our focus was get people to get covered, and really that was like the big shebang, right? Where we could see in terms of when people actually come in, it's almost like 50-50 or 60-40. And it's been that way in the healthcare industry for a long time. We just didn't have, I think, the means to actually look at that, connect that, and plan accordingly. So we've made that shift right away, and you see the stats. It's showing up as improvements. We can measure it, and we're going to continue to do that so that I can get the other 30 million that I want.
Glenn, I like how you called out that there wasn't like this one aha moment, right? And so much of what we do in media and marketing, it's an evolving thing. It's not like, oh wow, I'm done, here we go.
Yeah.
You figure out other questions to ask.
I'm not trying to end.
I was like, are we done?
No, I just want to be. I'm so thankful.
You figure out other questions to ask, right? You update the model. So how did that continuation process look like for y'all? How often do you update the data? How often do you challenge your own assumptions?
Every 5 seconds. I'm just kidding. Through the power of AI. No, what I would say is, I'm sorry, this just bothers me because I'm a visual person, so we're going to go back to the happy California picture. All right. What we committed, the way I would answer that is, when we went to our board, all very smart, all very data-driven, we did not get raked over the coals because the math is there, the transparency was there, we'd been having these checkpoints, and my commitment to the board was, we're not just going to show you in years where the return looks great. This is a tool that we're using real time, right? And we're going to talk to you the way we talk to Stella all the time. And so I mentioned the shift from acquisition to retention. This is the new assignment. Oh, it's okay. You're going to play some Smiths? That's what I really like. Morrissey? Oh, nice. Okay. All right. So long story short, it's a continuous conversation, and it is as we have these big questions like, how do we build a retention machine? Yeah. One of the first stops is Stella Rising and this model to help inform that.
Did you actually get the money that you asked for?
No. So
not yet is the right answer.
Not yet.
Right?
Not yet. I think no, but that's totally understandable in a world where we may, unfortunately, through no policy of California or any of the states, we may lose a third of our members, because it is truly about, do I choose rent, transportation, food, or do I choose to invest in healthcare coverage, this ambiguous thing that I may or may not use? And I've heard real people say that. And so no, not yet is the right answer, but I think that what we were able to show is that as our business and our outcomes adjust, we can be trusted with every dollar, that we have a plan. And I myself would not say, give me 30 million in this environment because of the business environment they're in. But I know exactly I think I know exactly where we need to go strategically and how to use media to achieve that.
Well, because even though you didn't get the additional investment, the project wasn't a failure, right? It kind
No.
of, that wasn't really the end goal of what you were trying to do, right?
No, the original assignment is, can you be trusted with this money? That's ultimately what the question is. Can you be trusted with this money, or are you just spending in this sort of shotgun approach?
Yeah.
So we nailed that assignment, and then we gave ourselves 4 more assignments, and again, that's why I appreciate Stella so much. There will not be a QR code, but if you do want to buy anything, it's 20% off this weekend. What we aspire to do is have partners who really, truly partner with us. And I know each of you, when you're talking to new folks, you say, I'm going to partner with you. For me, where I sit is when the stuff, and stuff is not the word I was going to say, when the stuff gets hard, will you actually be there with us, and will you help me, right? And I made a lot of jokes about work orders. I have not had one change order from Stella Rising. Chris may not be here next year. I don't know how you did this, but that's what I'm looking for in a strategic partner. That's what I'm looking for anyone who wants to help me on this mission is, do you really care about the mission as much as I do and my team? And we'll always be fair as clients. But I think that, and I talk to my peers across different states, we are all going through this together. And we need people who are down for the cause.
Yeah. Last question for me before I open it up and give you to the wolves, right, for the audience Q&A.
Okay.
Many people in here are having similar conversations, trying to justify media spend,
Yes.
especially as the rising cost of business.
Sure.
Media is usually the first thing to get cut, right? It sounds like choosing the right partner is one of the big lessons learned, but what other advice would you give to the folks in this room who are trying to answer that same question?
Sorry, run that by me.
Of how to justify your media spend, who are just starting on this journey.
Yeah. I just start with transparency. It sounds really pat, but it's like really leaning in to why are we being asked this question, and how can we make it less of an interrogation? I'm joking. It's certainly high stakes, but we didn't have the feeling that we were, trying to pass a test. We're fully transparent, and I think it's calling out things that you've learned, kind of how you're asking me. We don't pretend like we're perfect. We don't pretend like we know it all. And we always say to our stakeholders and ourselves, we're learning each and every time. And at the same time, what I try to do is not wait for the adult to tell me to cut, but to make those trade-offs before the meeting or before, and say, look, we've done our best. If this is the mission and these are the constraints, this is all the thinking and the work we've done with our partners, and we've made the tough choices already, right? And usually, you're not being asked to reinvent your plan overnight. So there's a lot of pre-work and there's a lot of transparency throughout the process, and that's why, again, why didn't we just run back into our board and say we've got the answer, because certainly the math was ready. We kept evolving our thinking about what we really wanted to answer, if that makes sense. Yes, we'll answer that, but for ourselves, I think this is really important. For ourselves, we want the answers so that we can craft a strategy, right? We knew we had the answer to that question, but I came in with 17 other questions. Yeah.
Questions from the audience for Glenn.
I either really impressed them or I didn't, and either way.
Morgan has a question.
Oh, shoot.
Don't give him a mic.
We'll talk later, Aaron.
Karaoke tonight,
he's
Dave
standing
Matthews,
up.
24/7.
Oh, shit.
Yes.
He's getting out of his chair.
Oh,
First of all, I'm a California resident, and I thank you tremendously. And like what you just said about people being scared to come in and do, that just kind of hits. Like I'm not in that group, but like everybody should be able to get medical coverage and not have to worry about coming in and giving feedback to make it even better. That is an aside. I'm just wondering, like the funding sources. Do the medical insurers, they pay you guys like a CPA and then the state matches it, or how do you guys get funded?
Yeah, you got it, right? So for every member that our plans sign up, we get what we call our participation fee, essentially. So that's the primary source of funds. And thank you for your opening. Yeah.
I imagine. Oh, we'll skip my question. We got a real audience question.
Your question's important too, Kate.
It is.
Okay, fine. I'm going for it. AI in your industry. I imagine there's some trepidation there into jumping into AI tools. Tell me a little bit about your approach and how are you using AI to optimize your marketing today?
Hold on, let me just get ChatGPT to help me answer your very smart question. I think Cover California, beyond marketing, just as an organization, we've always been very innovative. We have the latitude, thankfully, from the rest of our state to push. But to your point, we have to be very responsible about this particular space. Certainly, we're dealing with PII, PHI, and things like that. So, yeah, we're actively and have been actively looking at AI, not just looking at it, but rolling it out in very limited ways. When it comes to media buying, I think all of our partners are leveraging, AI, and we want more. In my morning meetings, I want to leverage any technology that can make every dollar count, that can help us be better, more nuanced, more strategic, so that we can reach all Californians. And I don't see how you do that and ignore this amazing wave of support that comes through responsible use of AI.
Hi, Angelica at Novartis. I think you said in your presentation that you learned it cost more money in media to reach your Hispanic audience. How did you realize that? What kind of research did you uncover? Was it your marketing mix model that led you to believe that? Because I'd like to learn from your experience.
Yeah, I mean, it's coming out of the MMM that we're seeing in terms of the metrics that are involved in that model, primarily reach and frequency, but others, right? And a question that I have is, what is it about our creative as well, right? And so, to level set, we're completely revamping how we think about marketing at Cover California, really building off of the foundation that's been successful. Part of that is the actual creative itself, right? So it's not just about spending money, and I think maybe that's where your question might be coming. Maybe it isn't 2 times more expensive if I have an amazing creative, but for us, that's what the model shows us. And so that's why I'm excited to see the model evolve as we think about retention, as we think about brand building. It establishes a baseline for us that we didn't have before, that now that we change our approach, now that we change how we do marketing, and it's really more and more culture first, I'm looking for that to close that gap, basically.
Glenn, thank you so much.
Thank
I
you.
could not have imagined a better conversation to kick us off this
The
morning.
opening was a little rocky, but I owe you.
I think we saw.
All right.